All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer Ibukole, and I'll be moderating this webinar. So today I have the singular honor of engaging with four beautiful, dynamic, intelligent, and powerful women who have taken out time from their busy schedules to serve as panelists and share from their wealth of experience and knowledge. This session promises to be impactful, insightful, and inspiring. So please stay with us throughout the conversation. And I'd like to ask that you please share the link to anyone you know that will benefit from this very great discussion. The theme of today's webinar is Owning the Future, Women Building Wealth Through Real Estate. In today's session, we'll be discussing how women can build real and sustainable wealth through real estate. So whether you're starting from scratch, you're already managing a business, or you run a successful agency, this forum is for you. There are things to gain from this particular discussion. Our panel today brings together diverse perspectives. We have people wearing the investment hat, the entrepreneurial hat, people that work in sales and strategy and marketing. And so our hope is that when we finish the session, you would have practical insights into the real estate ecosystem. So to start this session, I'll quickly introduce our panelists. First, we have Mrs. Uzo Oshogwe. Uzo is the MD CEO of Transco Hotels PLC. And prior to this, she was the pioneer MD CEO of Afriland Properties PLC, a position she held for 13 remarkable years. Madam Uzo, you're welcome. All right. So MD, I want to congratulate you on your performance at Transco for the past 1 year. We are super proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Dr. Agatha Obiekugo. Agatha has over 25 years of corporate experience, spanning banking, commerce and industry, IT and consulting. She currently serves on the board of Afriland Properties PLC, as well as other boards in varying sectors. She's the founder and MD CEO of Adasa Energy, a downstream oil and gas company. And Agatha brings a unique blend to this conversation. On one hand, she's on the board of a real estate company. On the other hand, she's also an investor and a serial entrepreneur. So it's be good to hear her perspectives. Our next speaker is Mrs. Aderemi Fagbemi. Mrs. Fagbemi serves as a strategy and stakeholder advisor at La Sierra. She's a senior executive and governance expert. Her career spans banking and telecoms at very high levels. She's a global strategist and the founder of the Girl Power Global Initiative. So Madam Fagbemi, well, happy to have you here. Our fourth speaker is Ms. Anwuli Waters-Okeke. Ms. Anwuli is the MD CEO of Mason Hills Properties, a luxury real estate brokerage and advisory firm based here in Lagos, with a strong presence across Ikoyi and Victoria Island. So Anwuli services the 1% of the 1%. She's widely respected for her insights when it comes to advisory and growing real estate portfolios for her clients. Anwuli, thank you for joining us. So this is going to be a very interesting topic, and I hope that we can share from these great women's perspectives and build our own businesses. So we'll get right into it. I know everybody wants to know what is the starting point in real estate. So Mrs. Oshogwe, we'll begin with you. So my question is, for a woman with little or no real estate background who wants to start building wealth through properties, what are the first 3 practical steps she should take, and what foundational knowledge is non-negotiable?
Okay. Thank you again for having me. So for a person who wants to actually, a woman who wants to actually delve into real estate, there are 3 pillars. One is knowledge. You have to educate yourself, because what you don't know, you can't give. So you need to at least understand the fundamentals of real estate. So what is real estate? You have to ask yourself, and you have to be able to answer that question. So you look at the real estate economics, what am I buying? How much is it going to cost? What are my returns? Just the basic financials, no heavy financials, just the simple ones. You put in your money somewhere, you pay some fees. What am I getting out of it? Am I renting it? Am I selling it? So just the basics. So you need to educate yourself. Secondly, you also, because we all talk about real estate being very capital intensive. I know, yes, you can start small, but you need to be disciplined when it comes to financials. You know, your capital, how disciplined are you at? Because you buy a property, are you just going to go out there and just spend? Or are you going to sit back and think, how am I going to spend this money that I have? Because at the end of the day, it's not limitless. So you think about, okay, how much is this land going to cost? I've done my homework. I've checked what the neighboring properties are going for. You don't just go there because somebody has told you this is how much it is. You must do your homework to ensure that the money you're putting into this business, that definitely your returns must exceed the cost of your capital. So that's basic. You know, and then thirdly, I already mentioned about it being capital intensive, but you have to also start thinking about, am I just going to put in a trial load of money to invest into this real estate? Am I going to be able to acquire wealth doing it this way? Sometimes people get scared and say, I don't think I can go into real estate. It's for big girls, or it's for big women, it's for big boys. But then you can start small. You have friends, you have colleagues, you have family. You can all come together. So what you call crowdfunding is, so for example, I find a property worth 150 million. Agatha, can you put in 30? Anne, can you bring another 30? Adoremi, can you bring another? And then Jennifer, can you bring another 100 million? And we come together and we buy that property. You know, so it might just be you buying into a little aspect of that, just a little part of that real estate person. You're a real estate entrepreneur. You know, you could just own a percentage. And then when they sell it, they give you your own percentage worth of it. You take your money, you put into another property. Maybe at this time, you're able to pay 20%. You invest in that in the long term, you sell, you buy a bigger property. And before you know it, you have a versatile real estate portfolio in your hands. So start small, don't be scared. So those are the 3 practical steps that I actually give to any new beginners that want to delve into real estate. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Uzo. I'm going to move to you, Dr. Agatha. So I like how Uzo set the stage in terms of how to come in at the very entry level, all right? So now for someone like you that has multiple businesses, you are here in different sectors, and you also invest in real estate. What would you advise a woman in terms of how to start? Remember, she's also already maybe a 9-to-5er or even already a businesswoman. How can she come into the real estate space to build wealth?
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to appreciate Afriland, for this platform. And I'd like to wish our viewers, especially the women amongst us, this is our month, happy International Women's Day. Okay, so yes, I run multiple businesses. I actually run a group of companies. Adasa Energy is the oil and gas arm. We have TNC Computers, the IT arm. We have bulk sale, fast-moving consumer goods. We have Treasure Parks Logistics. And then we have Distinct Africa, which is our media arm, and which happens to be the baby of the group. Okay, so apart from my passion, for entrepreneurship, the only reason why I run multiple businesses, is to have multiple streams of income. I know when you make this money, you remember that the money that you make doesn't make you rich. What actually makes you rich, is how you invest it. So for a woman, a woman that wants to use, real estate, to build wealth, I think the first place you should start from, in thinking about that, is to ask yourself, what are my financial objectives? My financial goals. Do I want, passive income, or do I want, long-term, appreciation? Or do you want both? If you want, passive income, and all, I will advise, you get a rental property. And in getting a rental property, if you have the money, you can buy. If you don't have the money, like Uzo said, you can collaborate, with a friend or business, associates, or you can even rent, to sublet. Okay. Or you buy a land. But in buying a land, I will not advise you to buy only one. I'll advise you to buy 2 so that, when it appreciates, you can sell one, use the money and develop, the other one, okay, and put it, into rent or whatever you want to do with it. So when you do this, you just sit back and you watch, money work for you, because money to me is a slave. You should send it on errand, to multiply. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agatha. I like how you put those strong points. So I want us to bring it really now for everyone to understand. I'm going to move to Mrs. Aderemi. Let's talk about the regulatory and compliance part of you. So what are the practical steps one would take before investing in real estate, especially in Lagos, so that you can protect your investment and you ensure you build your wealth legitimately? So what's your perspective? What's the roadmap? Can you please unmute, Mrs. Aderemi?
Yes. Good afternoon to the limit-breaking, amazing and extraordinary women in this room, and to all those watching us online. Happy International Women's Day. I want to say thank you to Afriland Properties for giving us this platform to share our perspectives and also to learn from one another. What are the steps we need to take in ensuring that, I like what Dr. Agatha said, that when you make money, you have to let your money work for you. And how do you, one of the ways your money, you can get ROI on your investments is through real estate. Is the new oil in Lagos and also in Nigeria. So when you decide to invest, you have to invest wisely. In Lagos, I mean, we all know that there's been a whole lot of issues regarding land grabbers and co. So you have to, the first thing you do when you choose to invest in real estate in Lagos, verification is very important. When you identify a property or a land you want to buy, the first thing is buy the land from LASRERA, and LASRERA is the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, which is the regulatory body for real estate transactions in Lagos. So you need to make sure that the developer or the agent you're buying for are verifiable LASRERA accredited developers, so we don't get our fingers burnt. The second thing is, when you scale through that, you make sure that you verify the title deed at the land registry. Ensure that the property you're buying is not under government acquisition. We've had a lot of issues. 5 years down the line, people buy properties and they come crying, oh, the government is not a friendly government, they're demolishing. But the signs are always there. I have some developers cry to me 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, oh, LABCA is coming to demolish the properties. When they bring me the plan and I show them, but you know that there's a drainage behind this property. So for new entrants, you have to make sure that you ensure that you do your due diligence, verify, and make sure that whatever you're buying, the property you're buying, is not under government acquisition. And when you eventually also scale through that, make sure that as soon as possible, you perfect your title. We are in a country where policies change, and you want to ensure that you're on the right side of the law at any given time. Perfect your title, get your governor's consent or your C of O as you build, or as soon as you purchase the property. And ensure also that your deed of assignment, once you make the purchase, the deed of assignment is registered. Because some shady developers, they can assign a single property to like 10 people. So make sure that your journey should be between your seller and the lands registry. So make sure that you have all your documentations intact and duly verified. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Adiremi. So what I took from your conversation is that your main advice is that everyone should make sure they have perfect titles and should be on the right side of the law when it comes to any purchase or sales transaction in real estate. Thank you so much. So we're moving on to Miss Anne. So Anne, I know you wear that hat of that real estate advisor broker. So what would you say is the comparison if you want to advise somebody? If you want to start and you don't want to necessarily go in and buy a property as an investment, but rather you want to probably come in from the arm of being an advisor or a broker, what are the earnings? Can you unmute, please?
I can unmute, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much to Afriland Properties for this amazing webinar, for having me. I want to start by saying that I didn't get into real estate because I just wanted to sell properties and make commission. But truth be told, that part is nice, but that wasn't the sole reason why I got in. I got in because I was curious. I wanted to understand how wealth was structured in Nigeria. And the deeper I got into it, I saw a clear pattern that the people that own their assets control their financial future. Now, before real estate, I must say that I'm a lawyer. I studied law in both my undergrad and in my master's level as well. And that background shapes everything that I do, in the sense that I know how deals are structured, I know where the risks lie, and I know how best to protect myself and my clients. And over the years, I have seen people make mistakes that a simple due diligence could have avoided. So the reason why we set up Maison Hills Properties was to help people know what they're buying, even understand what they're signing, and of course, to use what they have to build something that will last a lifetime. So for someone that wants to go into real estate, but maybe doesn't have a lot of capital, I would say that you could start with sales and agency. Like my fellow panelist, Ms. Uzo, said, knowledge is very important in this industry. And going into sales and agency will give you something that, you know, if you were to dive straight into ownership, might not give you, and that is market intelligence. It's very important to know that. And as a broker, you get to learn all of these things without any capital expenditure, right? In terms of the earnings can be quite significant. And what I mean by that is that just from one really good structured deal, you can get more liquidity than, say, a rental income from 1 year property, from a property, like a 1 year rental income from a property. And if you're diligent enough, you'd be able to convert that income into ownership. This is assuming that you don't have your personal shopper on your speed dial, because you will buy a Birkin bag first. So it is very important that you are intentional about what you want to do with that money. Otherwise, you can easily squander it. But one thing I can tell you is that the earnings are quite significant. They're good enough that they can fund your first acquisition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. So I took down something you said. You said when it comes to building wealth, you have to structure the wealth. That's the first thing you said. And you said the people that own their assets control their future. So thank you for that very great insight. My question now goes to Madam Uzo Shogwe. We've talked about different things from the starting point, but I believe that a lot of people have a lot of fears when it comes to owning real estate and how to even do your capital allocation. So I know you mentor a lot of women in the real estate space. what are the 3 most critical mistakes that you see women make when they start their real estate journey? And how can they avoid those pitfalls?
Okay, so thank you for that very good question. When it comes to, yes, like you said, talking to young women that want to actually go into real estate and the kind of mistakes they make. First of all, they go into real estate investment emotionally. So it's like almost like social pressure. My friend just bought a property in this location. I'm going to look for money. I'm just going to go there and just buy the same property without doing their homework. First of all, you have to look at what location, because it's all about, we talk about real estate and we talk about location, location, location. So is that location the best location for that money investment that you want to make? Number 1. What is the demand for that location? Number 2. What are the potentials? What are the economic activities around that area to ensure that the current demand is sustainable? That means in the next 5 years, the demand is going to grow because you are checking, oh, we have this refinery that is actually coming up here, or we have the markets, all of a sudden they're building the markets, or all of a sudden there's a park being built around there. Those are the kind of signs you need to look at. So not just because Miss A is buying buying a property in a location, you just jump there, do your homework. So that's one mistake that they keep making. Another one is what everybody here has spoken about, your due diligence. Regulatory due diligence, legal due diligence. Is that property zoned for what you're planning to do? Is it zoned for commercial? Is it zoned for residential? Is it even zoned for development? Or is it set aside for governmental use? Or are there underground pipes in that place you're actually trying to buy? Or are there overhead power lines that will stop you from building? Then you talk about, Aderemi has talked about that. She talked about ownership. She talked about title. You have situations where you think you have a valid title and somebody else has it. And in fact, sometimes not even the minute you start building, they wait for you to even complete. And then they come with their title and say, oh boy, lady, this land is my own. And we all know that if the land belongs to somebody else, anything on that land belongs to the owner of the land. So you cannot overemphasize the importance of due diligence. It's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of your money. Get the right consultants to help you carry out the right due diligence. Then number 3, I think I've actually put that together when I talked about what is the use of that land. You know, if you have planned that, okay, maybe you've actually gotten JV partners that want to put in place a residential block, only for them to come and tell you, this land is for a hospital. So what do? Maybe you've already collected the money, you've already selected a contractor, you've already mobilized or something. So those are the 3 most important things that is important that you do those 3 items. Talked about, what location. So it's location, location, location. Is your due diligence. Is also checking out what use that land that you're trying to buy is for, so that everything is well planned. Because at the end of the day, real estate is capital intensive. Real estate is not a short-term business, it's long-term. So you must have a long-term strategy in order to get into the right market and ensure that you are not hurt. And there's also the risk around it. There's no business that you go into that there's no risk. So you must evaluate those risks and ensure that you have mitigants to ensure that those risks do not cause you to go home and cry. And then something else that is also key is you don't have to do it alone. When I talked about collaborating, that means gathering funds, there's also, when you gather people together, you are sharing your risk. So you're not taking it all. So when you are crying, you cry together. When you are laughing, you laugh together. So you can't go wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Uzo. So what I got from your own section was that you talked about people should not make emotional decisions when it comes to real estate for transaction purposes. Have it planned. This is long-term, this is short-term, and then you must do your due diligence. And I'm sure a lot of people here think they do enough due diligence. We find that as we keep on making the same mistakes, and mistakes come from when you don't know exactly what obtains in the industry. So I'm going to get more clarifications on that. But first, I want to move to Dr. Agatha. So I know many women are intimidated by real estate investing because, as you all rightly know, it's kind of complicated. So for you, what was your entry point? And what would you tell a woman that is nervous about taking the first steps in real estate?
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I don't think there is anything to be intimidated about, when it comes to real estate. Because to me, it's fun. Growing your funds, is fun. Maybe because I like money. So, for the woman that feels intimidated, there's nothing to be intimidated about. Just know how much you have, your budget, and then research on locations, like Uzo said. I mean, you can start with 100,000. You can buy a plot of land for 100,000, and all. And if you want to go into Airbnb, you don't have to have the money, to buy, the property. You can actually rent, to sublet. So just take the first step. I mean, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Don't be scared. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. So I would say, look at, the money you have, research on locations, and then look for, very little manageable entry points. Okay. And then start your investment.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Agatha. I like how you've been very bold and audacious, saying that you love money, and so everybody can come into this space. Yes, but we must do that carefully, as also pointed out, due diligence, the emotional decisions, and then look at the transaction, as Anwoli pointed out. So I'm going to come to our compliance expert, Mrs. Adiremi.
Jennifer, let me just add to my answer.
Okay, please go ahead.
Also, I think Mrs. Adiremi or Mrs. Fagbemi and Uzo, and even Anne, have also emphasized, on that point. Get a good lawyer by your side. You can't go into real estate investing, without a good lawyer. The lawyer that you have, will check out, properties that you want to invest in, okay, to make sure that those properties, are not encumbered. So that's very important. I just needed to add that. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Agatha. So we've heard so much about the fears that people have about purchasing real estate, especially in Lagos. So Mrs. Adiremi, come to our rescue. What are the simple steps women can take to avoid costly legal issues and so we don't lose our investments? Mrs. Adiremi, did you hear me?
No, I didn't get that.
Oh, you didn't hear the question. I said, we've been talking about the fears that people have when it comes to purchasing real estate. And you are the compliance experts on this panel. We're saying, what are the critical compliance mistakes that people make? And what simple steps can we take to avoid those costly legal issues or avoid even losing their investments?
Thank you very much. Like I said, the most important thing is to verify. And at the point of purchase, don't personalize payments to anyone. What do I mean by that? Don't make personal payments to the agents. Don't make personal payments to the family head or Omonile, as they call it in Lagos. Make sure that you have institutional trail. If you're going to make payments for any property or land purchase, make sure that it has a bank trail so that the system can protect you. That's number one. Number two, demand for your seller's tax clearance certificate. That in its own legitimizes the transaction. And at the point when you eventually make the purchase and the land is in your possession, ensure that you get your own surveyor and do your own chattings yourself, because there's so many get rich quick agents and developers around what you have in the survey that is given to you, it would be totally different from what is at the lands registry or the surveyor general's office in La Lausa. And most importantly, make sure that that deed of assignment is legitimately registered at the lands registry. Very, very important. As soon as possible. Some people make purchases for houses and lands and just leave it like that. On 5-7 years down the line, then there's the problem. So these are the safety nets I think that subscribers should take very seriously. Please don't pay to anybody. Make sure that you have a bank trail. That's very important. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Adiremi. I like how you put everything step by step. There must be a bank trail. You must institutionalize the sale, and you must make sure you deal with the appropriate owners for documentation. So thank you so much. I'm moving to Ms. Anwuli. I want us to talk about the agency and the commission aspect of the business. So I know right now you work for yourself, but if you want to advise, how can a woman transition from being a solo real estate agent to building her own agency? What are the practical steps?
Thank you for that. Well, it requires you to be intentional. You have to change your mindset to that of a system builder. So what I mean by that is you need to standardize all your processes. You need to have a documentation process. You need to have a listing process. You need to have even client onboarding processes as well. And all of these things must work without you being in the room. If you have to be there for your team to prepare an offer or send out KYC documentation or start negotiations, then you haven't really built an agency. So first you have to standardize the process. And then another thing you must do is to build your brand before you build the team. So a lot of people rush to CAC and they register their agency and immediately they want to hire 100 agents. You don't need all of that. All you need is 3, 4, or 5 agents that know what they're doing. Otherwise, you'll end up managing chaos instead of focusing on the business. And agents will always come because they follow structure. Once you give them a clear commission, once they know what they are getting into, they come through the door. But clients trust the brand. So it's very important that you focus on the brand, because that commission that you are thinking about, if the clients don't trust you, they won't even give you any deal that will allow you realize that type of commission. So instead of focusing on building a team, focus more on building your brand, because that is what will eventually become the agency's reputation. And then, of course, you have to have a commission model. When you eventually get to the point where you hire some agents, you're going to have different agents with different skill sets. You might have junior agents, mid-level agents, and maybe very experienced senior agents. So you have to structure a commission that rewards them for their efforts, but also protects the company. So you could have junior agents earning up to 50% of the deals they close. You can have the mid-level agents earning up to 60%. And then maybe the agents that are more senior level that bring in their own deals, you can perhaps structure a split, percentage with them. So these are the practical steps you have to take initially in order for you to set up a successful agency. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. So I like how our conversation has moved from avoiding mistakes, and we're currently at how you identify opportunities. So I'm going to be moving to Mrs. Oshogwe. So when it comes to real estate, whether it's a residential property, commercial, or mixed use, what framework would you advise women use to evaluate that transaction? How do you assess that a deal will deliver value?
Take that again, Jennifer.
So I said, when it comes to real estate, right? Whether it's residential, commercial, or it's a mixed use property, what framework should a woman use to evaluate that particular transaction, that real estate investment deal? How do you assess it to deliver value? And it can build wealth from that transaction.
Okay, basically simple. You want to go into a real estate investment, you have to check, like I think I mentioned it before, you have to check the value of the property you're buying. You have to ensure that the value makes sense, that you're not paying more than the worth of that property. And how do you do that? So you have to look at the cost of that property. You have to look at the hidden costs, because there are some costs that you don't see out there in front of you, especially if you are going into a deal for the first time. So you are looking at the land costs, because you have to look at the size of the land that you're buying. If there's a property on top, get it valued, get a third party to value the property to ensure that it makes sense. And then you look at how much is it going to cost me to develop the property. Land cost, property cost, land cost, the cost of construction, the hidden costs, building approval costs, the cost of the consultants that you're going to use, the agents that are going to help you sell it if it's residential, if it's commercial. So all of those other costs, you have to take into cognizance those costs. Then you now look, remember I said, look at the costs in that area that you're paying a good price for it. Then you now start looking at, you've talked about costs, now you're talking about now the revenue that is going to come in. How much would a 1-bedroom, if you're looking at residential, or 2-bedroom or 3-bedrooms, how much would it cost if it was an office space? And then you look at all the costs, look at your perceived income, and you do the maths. Does it make sense?
Oh, yes.
Go into any kind of transaction if you have not confirmed the viability of that transaction. So you can't just jump into a transaction. You're thinking, like Dr. Agatha mentioned recently, says, is it going to be an Airbnb? Are you going to rent it outright? Or are you even planning to sell? So before you even start the process, do your homework. Get the consultant that will help you. If it's a financial model you need to put in place, do so. Have scenarios. So if, for example, you started the property, the dollar was this amount of money, and this is how much it's going to cost you. And then this is how much you are going to, at the beginning, this is how much rent was going. Maybe at the time you started, rent was probably, say, for example, 50,000 per square meter or whatever. So you do those kind of scenarios. So what happens if the rates go down? Will I break even? What happens if, for example, some issues came up and the development period exceeded what you planned? So if you had said, okay, I'm going to do this for 18 months, and you get an issue and it becomes 24 months, what are the losses? So those are the scenario plannings you have to do to ensure that you're going into a good investment. So those are the basic, simple fundamentals that you need to put in place if you are to go into any type of investment in real estate. And this is irrespective of whether it's mixed use or whether it's residential or whether it's commercial. So it's just the basics. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Uzo. So we know that people play across the real estate value chain. Not everybody just does buying and flipping property sales. Some people want to hold them long term so they can generate ongoing wealth. So I'm going to move to Dr. Agatha because I think that's where you play. So beyond just buying and selling properties, how do you see real estate as a wealth building tool that works in the long run, that's over time? What's the simplest way to benefit from real estate as an investor?
Thank you, Jennifer. But before I answer your question, I think you asked me what my entry point was. Yeah, so I skipped that. So my entry point, very interesting. I actually bought a plot of land with just 100,000 through a church. You know, some land, had been apportioned to my church at that time. And the pastor, made an announcement and asked if anybody was interested. And I had 100K. And I was interested in growing that money. And I'm happy to tell you that today, it's running into millions, and all. Okay, so back to your question. You see, real estate is very powerful and interesting, okay? You can't say you're rich without having a real estate, portfolio. So where do you invest 1 million and then you get 6.5 million in 3 years? Where do you invest 17.5 million and it becomes 120 million? That's almost like, 600, is it 600% ROI? So back to your question. What's your question, Jennifer? I've actually forgotten. Please remind me. Remind me, please. Oh dear. You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you, Dr. Agatha. So we talked about how people actually flip properties. Some people do that. That's their own business style. But to build long-term real estate wealth, how would you advise?
And let me advise experientially, what has worked for me. I like land. You buy land for 1 million, before you know it, is tripled, and all. So I like land. I will advise land. I'll advise for, starters, to buy land. I also like, rental property. And why I like rental property is because, it's very simple, to enter into real estate. You don't have to have all the money, okay? If you have money, you can buy. If you don't have money, you can rent and sublet, okay? Then another easy way, to get into real estate is through what I call real estate virtual funds, okay? So whereby, the little money you have, you give it to a company, that invests, in real estate businesses, and all. But you have to do your due diligence, very well. Then another simple way, which, incidentally, a friend of mine, is currently, practicing. She has a friend. It's collaboration. She has a friend. So what they do, they pull money together, look for a credible developer, okay? They give him the money. If it's 40 million, the property, that he would have sold at maybe like 70 million, on completion, he gives it to them at 40 million, okay? So when that property, is fully built, and or they sell it for 60 million or 70 million, and, they make their whatever return on investment. So these are the very simple ways, one can enter into real estate and make money.
Thank you, Dr. Agatha. But on a lighter note, is there still a land of 100,000 right now in Lagos?
There is, depending on the location. Yeah, there is.
Okay. So we'll see. I think we'll investigate and do more on that. But 100,000 right now, let's see how it goes. So I'm going to move.
I think Aderemi can tell us. If
Oh, yes. She's in the best position to tell us. All right. So we can actually dream and dream big. But I want to pick on something Dr. Agatha talked about. She talked about due diligence. And I know we've talked about that topic over and over again. But I want to ask you, Mrs. Fagbemi, what documentation is not negotiable when it comes to purchase, in your own opinion? Can you hear me? Okay, can you unmute? Unmute, please.
Thank you, Agatha. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay, we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
In my opinion, and on the side of law, these are the non-negotiable to lay claim to land or property ownership in Lagos. Number one, a duly registered title. Sorry, I take that back. Number one, a duly registered survey at the Surveyor General's office at Alausa. That's the first step. Number two, a search of the root deed of assignment. I'm going to take that again. The search of the root deed of assignment. When you're purchasing a land from someone, there must be an existing deed of assignment for the land you are purchasing. So the person or the house if well, most houses these days are built by developers. So the developers sell the land, the houses to the end buyers. There is always a root title to that property or to that land. You need to verify the status of the root title before you go ahead and register your own deed of assignment. Afterwards, number 3, you now apply for either a governor's consent or a CFO, depending on where the property, which of the categories the property falls in. And if you have a deed in your hands in Lagos and is not in the registry at lands, you just have a piece of paper. Whilst the registration is going on, your survey plan must be, you must have the red, they call it the red copy. You must have the red copy, that's the registered copy of your survey plan. If you don't have all of this, you just have a piece of paper with you. Those are the non-negotiables. And of course, your receipt of purchase is very important. I remember I was taking care of some registration for my late sister, and I went to the seller and he gave me the receipt. The property was purchased for 80 million and the seller issued a receipt for 40 million. For some people, they may not look at and the way the receipt was structured, it was hidden. The figure was hidden. But because I did due diligence, I looked through each of the documents line by line, and I picked that up. And the developer says, oh, don't worry, I did that because I'm trying to protect you from the tax master. And I said, no, that should be for your client to worry about. You cannot give me a receipt for 40 million for a property that was purchased at 80 million. Anybody can wake up tomorrow and lay claim to that property. How are you going to defend that? You have a bank debit transaction for 80, but you have a receipt, which is more like a legal tender for 40. So you have to look at the fine lines. Like Anne said, you need, and Dr. Agatha also said, you need to hire a lawyer. And with all due respect to Anne, who is a lawyer, some legal practitioners also, because they want to run through the process quickly, they have loads of clients, they don't look through as much as they need to. So I think the onus is on the buyer. You are the burden of proof, if I must talk like a lawyer now, the burden of proof is on the buyer. If I work so hard as a woman, juggling careers, my home, and I step forward, you know, like we said at Zenith Bank program yesterday, you have to take it to own it. And we step forward and we want to own, you know, build a legacy that will outlive us. We have to make sure that we take the pain to ensure that we do what is right. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much, Mrs. Fagbemi. I think you did justice to that question, and people probably had their pens taking down all the notes of documentation that they require for any real estate purchase. So thank you so much for that question and your response. So I'm going to move to Ms. Anwuli. I know you represent clients and developers when it comes to real estate. So how do you personally identify which projects to partner with? And also, what due diligence do you do to ensure you're positioning quality properties that will sell and generate strong commissions? And can you unmute, please?
I'm sorry. So thank you so much for that question. And remember at the beginning, I said that one of the reasons why we set up Maison Hills Properties was because we have seen many clients make drastic mistakes that a simple due diligence could have avoided. So our sole purpose, one of our sole purposes, apart from making the commission side of it, is to ensure that our clients understand what it is that they're buying and even what they are signing. So in doing our due diligence, we are very thorough because the kind of clients that we represent, we can't afford to miss a bit. So we are extremely thorough. So first, we check the title, right? The title and all the documents must check out. If the title or the documentation does not match or it doesn't check out, the conversation ends there. There is nothing else to discuss because a bad title is just disaster waiting to happen. And there is no amount of commission that you offer me that would allow me bypass that and risk my reputation. We also check the developer's track record because these days developers have the most beautiful renderings, the most beautiful brochures that if you're not looking, if you're not focused on why you're doing due diligence on them, you will get carried away with their brochures and their, their renderings. So we look at their track record in the sense that we need to know whether they've completed a project before. We need to know that their quality is really good. If you haven't completed a project before, chances are that we won't even present your property to our buyers. I know some people would say, oh, how about the developers, the up-and-coming developers, who is going to give them a chance? Again, we represent the very few Nigerians that are very important. So unfortunately, we can't afford to use them as guinea pigs. So the developer has to have a solid track record. He must have delivered and his quality must be impeccable. Like Ms. Uzo said, the trajectory of the area is also very important. It's not just about what the property is doing today. We have to look into the future. What's the property going to do tomorrow? Does it command demand? And what are the rental, comes in terms of the comparable properties around that area? We look at all those things in, advising our clients to go for a property. The secondary sale value is also very important. It's not just buying a property today. If nobody can buy that property in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time, you've just really just bought a liability, right? So the exit strategy has to be very clear. So we would ask, who's going to buy this property in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time? And at what price are they going to buy it for? And we need to be satisfied with all of these questions. So first, that asset must protect the capital and it must command some sort of demand. And lastly, the exit strategy has to be very clear. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anwuli. So when you were talking about how you identify developers to partner with, I was thinking Afriland Properties PLC. So to all our listeners, please, you can partner with us. You can buy from us. Yeah. We have properties in Lagos, and we have a very good property right now on sale, Carmo Estates. It's in Abuja. Please, after this session, after this webinar, just go to our website and you have all the information on the property. And please be informed that we have properties coming up in Lagos, especially around the Ikoyi. So be on the lookout so that you will not miss the 1% of the 1% that Anne talked about.
Exactly.
All right, so I have a final question for all panelists. I want each person to give it their perspective. Now, the question is, what is the one most important thing a woman must do right now if she wants to build generational wealth? So we'll start with Uzo, please.
Okay. First of all, is to make the decision that you want to build generational wealth. And as a woman, we don't always think about today. We always think about the next generation. So you rarely build generational wealth with just income, rental income, or sale of a property. It has to be built through ownership of an appreciable asset, because this is something that over time would appreciate in value. So that is key. Because by doing that, you are creating security for the next generation, you are creating independence for the next generation, and you're also creating opportunities for them in the next generation. And with real estate, it's very easy to transfer from one generation to the other. And if you talk about old money is always in real estate. So my advice, start now, stay informed, think long-term, because that's the long-term that leads to generational wealth. Even if you start small, if you do this consistently, over time, you will have an impressive and versatile real portfolio. So get cracking. Start now.
Thank you. Thank you, Zo.
Thank you.
Dr. Agatha, please go.
So, I had when Anne, mentioned, Birkin, right? Or MS. Yes. So, and this is my advice, is for a young lady, that is starting out, on her real estate, what is it called, journey. So I would say, don't buy labels, buy land, okay? Buy houses. Those houses you're buying, get rental income from them, reinvest, that income you're getting, and then you can then use your return on investment on the reinvested income, okay, to fund your lifestyle. And Jennifer, there's something I want to say again, because I'm sure we have a lot of young women, that have tuned in to watch us, from all over the world. We have a very bad beauty culture now, in the sense that our young ones, and I'm saying this, because this is our month, okay? So it's an advice, to young women. There's so much pressure on what they wear. There's so much pressure on how they look, the bags, they carry, and all. And I just want to tell them today that what you wear, what you carry does not validate you. What validates you is on the inside of you. So instead of paying so much attention, chasing after labels, eyelashes, augmenting your boobs, and all, why don't you beautify yourself intellectually? It's more lasting, okay? Because it will teach you how to build wealth, generational wealth, because women can actually build wealth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agatha.
Yeah, I needed to say that.
Not a problem. Okay, please give us your own take, Mrs. Pagwemi. Can you unmute?
Thank you, Dr. Agatha. I'm sure we've all noted that. The bottom line and my advice this afternoon will be generational transfer. You cannot gift or will a property to your children if you are not legally recognized by the state as the owner. So in Lagos, you don't own the property except your name is on the registry. So my advice is, earlier, if there are still 100,000 houses, lands to purchase in Lagos, yes, if you go further, Mowe, Ibafo, Arikpo, and Co, Ikorodu, and Co, you still get maybe probably not 100,000, but something within reach for everyone. Please ensure that when you decide to purchase, to own your future, please ensure that it is registered, your title is registered. That is when you can actually start building generational wealth for me. There's a lot you can do if you are a legitimate owner of a property. That's when you are able to do your Airbnbs, you can do your rental, you can sell to even, redevelop other properties. And the ROI on just investment in one single property is unbelievable. It has a multiplier effect. The real estate sphere is the only stable investment, as it were, in these climes. So my advice is please, our doors are open every day, Monday to Friday. We're here as a government to serve you. Please kindly ensure that you have all your documentations properly registered. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Fagbemi, for closing up with documentation. That's what concerns you, to guide us. So we hear you and we take the message. And Ms. Anne, please go ahead.
So one thing I want to say is that real estate is not reserved for just men. And I'm actually tired of advising only men. So I'm looking forward to more women, owning properties. And in doing that, you first have to decide that you want to become an investor. Not when your pastor tells you that he saw you in his vision, or when the economy gets better, or when, you have more money. You need to decide now, because the moment you decide, everything else changes. Even the people you talk to, the books you read, where you go, even what to do with that income and that commission that you get would start becoming very clear to you, right? So you need to make that decision for yourself that, yeah, I'm ready to get into real estate. And honestly, the barrier to entry is actually lower than a lot of people think. People think that, you have to have 1 billion to get in. You don't. You have to start with where your financial reality points. Everybody does not have to start in Ikoyi. There is, other corridors in Lekki where you have the Dangote refinery. It might be too late now because the real investors already ran there before the crowd got wind of it. So you have to, be disciplined enough to know what you want to do with your life and just aim for financial freedom, which I tell people all the time that it's not a figure, it's a structure. And one of the few parts to that structure is real estate. So I'm looking forward to, more women calling my phone and saying they're ready to do this. I'll be more than delighted to advise and guide them towards that path that their future generation will be very grateful for. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anwili. So that's the final question. We're going to open for questions from our listeners, but first, I want to thank you, 4 of you. You've done excellently well. I liked how you took the conversations from very granular level, and I think everybody that listened had something to gain. So thank you so much for your time. And to our listeners, I actually hope you gained something from this exercise. We will now open for questions. Can you please just raise your hand with the button on the system, and then we'll go from numbers. Or you can actually chat. You can actually type your questions in the chat box. So I'm trying to get the questions. Okay, somebody has a question for Anne. The person says, Rukaya Haruna says, thank you for your insightful discussion. This panel was well-rounded and wholly informative. My question now is, what are some examples of actions that can constitute due diligence to the extent that if conflict arises in the future, the buyer will be able to, have the law in his favor? Did you get the question, Madam Anne?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, it says, what are some examples of actions that can constitute due diligence to the extent that if conflict arises in the future, the buyer will be able to have the law in his favor?
Well, to be honest, that question is kind of the other way around, because if you do your due diligence correctly, you won't even get to the point where, you're arguing whether what owns what or who owns what. First, if you check the title and you're diligent enough in doing that, the land registry exists for a reason. Yes, there are bad players in the market, but that is why we have the land registry. You can go there and you can confirm title. In terms of the developer's track record, you can do a thorough due diligence on him, and you can know whether this person is capable of delivering, right? If you do all of those things and you take those steps, you wouldn't really need to be speaking English too much, right? But first, of course, you need to have a contract of sale that shows that, you purchased this property. Like Ms. Aderemi said, you need to have a receipt of payment, right? All the documentations just have to check out. If they don't check out, my advice to Rukiat is to just end the conversation there so that you don't have to talk too much to your clients.
Okay, thank you, Anne. I hope Rukayat got the explanation she wanted. I have another question. It says, what's the most efficient ownership model? Can Uzo please take that for us? The most efficient ownership model. When you want to buy a property, do you buy it in your own name or do you use other acquisition vehicles?
I think it depends on what your intentions are. So sometimes you want to buy a property and you decide that I want to buy it in my name. You might decide that you want to buy it in your company's name. You might decide that you want to buy it in the names of your children or your husband or your partner. So it depends on what your intentions are. I don't know if the person wanted, I don't know what the person's real question is. Are you talking of, as a woman, if you were going to own a property, would you rather buy it in your name or buy it in your spouse's name? But if, like, I think I just saw something about if you want to be more tax efficient. If you want to be more tax efficient, I would advise that you buy a property in the name of a company. That would be my advice.
Okay.
Because then you run it as a firm without having to get it mixed up with your own personal income tax. So you'll be dealing with it as a company, as a separate entity. And you won't get into all that complex dealings with the tax person. I would advise that if you have a day job and you're not a real estate person, if you have a separate day job, you should actually, and you want to acquire property, open up a firm and then buy your real estate in the name of that firm. I think it's more tax efficient if you do that.
All right, thank you, Uzo. I know I put you on the spot. So I have a question that's for Mrs. Fagbemi. Somebody is asking, what is the difference between a CFO and governor's consent? Which is more secure out of the two? All right, did you get the question? Mrs. Fagbemi, did you get the question?
I think it's frozen.
Oops.
Because for a title doc, for you to actually perfect a title, you need the governor's consent.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's
me?
She's in that area, but definitely.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. Mrs. Uzo was helping out. Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did.
All right. So please go ahead.
I did.
Yes, would you like to respond? Apologies, I think we're having challenges with her network.
So basically,
yes.
if you have a property and you needed to perfect the title, you will need the governor's consent to perfect your title. So it's not either or.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
What I want to add to that is that a COO is literally the government saying that you have the right to occupy this
Can you
land.
hear me?
Okay, I think she's back. Should I go on? Or...
I like what is happening here. Everybody wants to help. Uzo first came in to help. Now Anne wants to help. Can you hear us, Doctor? I mean, Mrs. Fagbemi?
Yes, what she's written is that C of O is a certificate.
I did. Consent and they are both.
Okay, so let me just read from her response. She just typed. She said, the C of O is certificate of occupancy, and they are both legal documents. So while she's still typing the response, I'll just take the next question. Someone is asking, please, do you recommend starting the investment journey personally, or is it better to start with a group? I will give Anne this question, though I know you are running solo right now, but let's hear from you.
It really depends on your financial reality. So, you know, you can do it alone if you have enough money, right? You just have to know the entry point or where you want to enter from. If you have 5 million naira, for example, you'd be thinking to go towards, you know, Lekki area, the growth corridors. If you have more money to come towards Lekki 1, you could also do that. If you even have less than 5 million, like Dr. Agatha said, you can come together as a group and own portions of the real estate. So it really just depends on your financial reality and how much is available to you to begin your journey.
All right, thank you, Anne. I have this question for Dr. Agatha. Somebody is asking, it says, I have a land that was purchased 5 years ago and hasn't yielded any significant returns. Will you suggest I keep it or I sell it?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So to the person asking the question, you know, I will advise you keep the land. Listen, nobody makes land, okay? So keep that land, is going to appreciate. That will be my answer and my advice.
All right, thank you. I'll just quickly read on the chat what Mrs. Fabian responded to the question. She said, they are both legal documents, and the location of the property determines the title to be awarded, and also the existing title on the root title. Somebody asked, how do you solve the issues of omanile in the purchase of properties? Is this legalized? I want Mrs. Fagbemi to answer this question.
What was the question again?
The person said, how do you solve the issues of omanile in the purchase of properties? Is this legalized?
Omonila is not legalized. They are basically land grabbers, and there's a unit at the Ministry of Justice that takes care of issues of land grabbers. And that's why at the beginning of this webinar, I did advise that you don't have any business purchasing or sending or giving money to an individual who presents himself or herself to you as the owners of the land. So we have to be careful because a lot of people have gotten their hands burnt. It is not legalized. And that's why we have a lot of advocacy going on as regards this. There are families who own some land in Lagos, but these families are duly registered and recognized. It's like buying a land from the Onikoyi family in around the Banana Island axis in Lagos. You don't hear of any issues regarding purchasing land from such families because they're already duly, recognized and registered with the regulatory authority. So you have to be careful. We had some issues with some land grabbers at the Okwaja area of Lagos. And the subscribers to that land, it has cost them a whole lot. So we have to just be patient and do our due diligence. And to answer the question, no, it is not legalized. It is not.
Thank you so much. I think a lot of people wanted that clarification because of the noise that happens in Lagos. So I have a question for Mrs. Uzo. Somebody's asking, which area will you recommend them to purchase land? They said, is it better in Abuja or Lagos?
Anyway, it totally depends on the product. For example, Afriland is developing a property in Abuja that is very good development, good price point. So if you want to diversify your portfolio, that means different locations. If you already have properties in Lagos, then go to Abuja, go to Carmel Estate, and Jennifer and Tim, and if you can even come to me, I will tell you how best to purchase that property. However, if you decide that, okay, I have properties everywhere else and I want to actually buy in Lagos, Afriland has a development coming up in Lugard, in Ikoyi. You can actually speak with them and they will tell you about the property in Lagos. So Lagos, Abuja, I think those are key cities. Lagos is a key city in Nigeria. Abuja is the FCT. Lagos is the biggest state. So I don't think you will go wrong if you decide on whether to buy in Abuja at Carmel or in Lagos at Lugard.
Thank you so much for promoting Afriland. We appreciate you, Ma. Thank you so much. I have a question for Dr. Agatha. The person is asking, can you recommend any real estate platform to partner with? I already know the answer, but it's good that
Of course. Of course. Afriland. Afriland is a one-stop real estate, company. 1 second, please. 1 second. So Afriland is a one-stop, real estate company. You can partner with, Afriland. And like Uzo, just said, we have a beautiful development coming up in Kamo. Okay, it's like a green city. You can buy it, put it on rent, it will eventually, become like a place, people can escape to. It can become a sala, vacation, destination, and also Afriland is there. Come partner with us. Don't mind Anne. Thank you.
All right. So I have another question. It says, must you build on land to retain it? Dr. Agatha, you advise that we keep our land. Even
Let
if
me
it's
take that
not
question. Yes, let me take that question again. Maybe the person didn't listen to the answer, that I gave, the response I gave. You can manufacture a car. You can sew clothes. Do you understand what I'm saying? But you see, land, nobody makes land again. Nobody makes land. It's fixed. So the land that is not appreciating today will appreciate tomorrow. Keep it. If you want to keep it as land, fine. If you want to build on it, you can build on it. But land is fixed, okay? And it will one day appreciate. I can assure you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agatha. I have a question, but I think Mrs. Fagbemi has already answered it. But I think it's actually a front burner for most people. Somebody else is asking, is there an agency in charge of stopping the Omonile from disrupting construction because of non-settlement by the buyer? Is she here? Can you hear me, Aderemi? Okay, she's trying to type. Okay, yes. Did you get the question, Aderemi?
What's the question? No, I didn't. Could you please take that again?
The person is talking about the Omoniles, as you rightfully said, asking what is the government doing in terms of, is there any policy that stops them? Is there any agency that stops them from, trying to acquire somebody else's land? What's the framework in place?
Okay, the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority is the regulatory authority to checkmate the menace of the Omoniles. But to be honest with you, government has done their own parts in terms of advocacy, letting the citizenry know that this is not legal and is not acceptable. Um, like I said earlier, the burden of proof is actually on us, the buyers. We have said enough, as it were. We have done stakeholders engagements with communities on TV, radio, and on even the government website. We have asked our buyers, our stakeholders, to please verify before you make your purchase. So if you, with all this advocacy going on, and you still find yourself paying to an individual who calls himself the landowner, to be honest with you, I don't know what else we can do as a government. We've done enough, and I think it's high time. And I think we as a people, we just want the easy way out. I don't know how an illiterate who doesn't even know the beacon of the land will sell the land to you in millions of naira, and you would go ahead and make payment. I want to advocate once more to our viewers, and please spread the news, share with your friends and family. They are not legal in any way. There are some legitimate families that have partnered with the government. If you must buy, there's some legitimate families that have partnered with developers, and we have done our due diligence. We've registered the developers at Lasrira. So please just ask questions and be mindful who you give your hard-earned money to. They are not, again, legal. Thank you. I can hear.
Apologies, I was actually muted. So we're going to just take 2 questions and we'll wrap up. My first question is for Madam Uzo. What mechanisms can be engaged for a youngster to own an asset, knowing fully well the bottlenecks in acquiring properties?
Okay, I think we've actually taken most of that on all the steps that you need to take to strike your first deal, which is looking at your location. First of all, I'll start by talking about the money. You know, you're young, you don't have a lot of money. We've talked about collaboration, having joint venture, crowdfunding with families and friends. And then also, as a new starter, there's a currency that you must hold dear to you, which is trust. Trust is key for a new starter, trust and your personality. So you don't have much money. So when you take the money you have, add that to trust and personality, that will be your currency to start this whole journey. And then secondly, is going through what we've discussed during the webinar, which is location, location, location. This is key. For funding, crowdfunding for a new starter is best. So you can just buy a portion of a real estate if you can't afford to buy everything. So you buy a portion now, you keep it for a while because real estate is long-term. You keep it for a while, you buy another portion. So in the first one, you might have just 10%. The next one, you have 20%, 10, 30 until you begin to own 100%. 1 asset, 2 assets, 3 assets, and you build your portfolio. It's just taking one step at a time, be consistent, and within a long time, a short period or a long period, depending on what kind of funding you have, you're able to build an impressive portfolio. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Uzo. So we'll just take our last question. Dr. Agatha, please, you help us with this. It says, when acquiring land purely for investment purposes, what timelines should investors realistically expect before seeing meaningful capital appreciation?
I like the fact that this question is coming to me because I'm a land apostle. So yes, so if you're buying land, for investment, I think you should give it like maybe like a period of 3 years. And I answer this question, experientially. Okay. So I have a domestic, staff of mine that I just employed not too long ago. So we got into a little chat, and she was telling me, how, she's been duped, and all. But that she's very proud of herself that the plot of land that she bought, she's not been able to sell it. She just hasn't sold it, even with all the hardship, that she has had to, go through, and also I asked her, I said, how much did you buy this land? She told me 1.5 million. And today is 6.5. Okay. I bought a land, and well, I usually don't like to open up myself like this in public, but well, for the purpose of this webinar. So I bought a land for 17.5 million. One lady, was just troubling me. Come and buy this land. Come and buy this land. I know reluctantly, I paid for it twice. Do you know that after 4 years, as we speak, that land is valued at 120 million? So if you're buying land, for investment, just give it like 3 to, 4 years, and you see your money, triple. Thank you.
And if I just latch onto that, you don't have to have 17.5 million to get into
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Oh, yes.
5 of us here, if we split 17.5 million into 5 places and we buy, and in 4 years' time, we take the 120 and we divide it by 5. Is that not a good investment? So you can always start small. Don't be scared. Start small. Own a portion, then you own the whole later on when you can afford it.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you to our incredible speakers for sharing such practical insights. Today, we've learned that building wealth is possible through real estate. And there are different ways you can build wealth. You can buy a property, you can do advisory, you can do brokerage. And when you're buying real estate, there's the knowledge aspect of it, there's the compliance and long-term thinking aspect of it. So if you want to go into real estate, you have to use all these arms, and then you go finally and make those decisions. So to everybody listening, please start and invest in real estate. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye from Afriland Properties PLC.
Bye for Transcorp Hotels PLC.
Bye from the Hadassah Group. Bye-bye.
Bye from Maison Hills Properties.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
On to
you.
the next one.
Thanks.